he's a character who's stuck in the past, and I think it's hard to win when you're only sort of looking backwards. And
Josh, this is so much. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. It's wonderful to chat with you.
yeah, nice to meet you, Steve.
It's nice to meet you too. How can you not fall in love with the DINK? I, it's such a pure fun. Can you tell me a little bit about pickleball and what about this world made you want to make a film in it?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how big pickleball's gotten, north of our border up there in Canada, but it's obviously gotten very big down here, including myself. I started playing it a few years ago, just I think post COVID, being like, oh, it's something to do, get out of the house. My wife and I, did the thing where we bought the $10 rackets off Amazon and went up and immediately got our butts kicked by a pair of 60-year-olds, who was like, wait, how are we losing all of a sudden? Um, but it was like, I experienced it just playing. It's a very unique subculture, right? Where you've got people from all walks of life coming together, playing, what is on the surface a bit of a silly sounding sport named pickleball, but it's really fun and it's challenging and it's incredibly social. And so, I thought that was certainly an interesting world. And then when this script came across my desk, written by Sean Clements, who is an incredibly funny writer, it was really, really funny, but then it also had, kind of this real heart to it that is always critical in any work that I do. That it's, yes, I love the jokes, I love the comedy, but none of that matters if you don't get emotionally invested in the characters. And of course, Jake Johnson at the center of it is a friend of mine, incredibly talented actor. And him being involved and attached as Dusty was huge. And so I was just very excited to tell, I hadn't done really a sports comedy yet. I had made a sports documentary many years ago called The Short Game, which was about the best little kid golfers in the world as they 7 and 8 year olds and as they train to compete in the world championships. But to do it in the narrative format, I was excited about, and there hadn't been a pickleball movie made yet. And so there was a lot of kind of firsts I got to do, personally, but, really a great story, and obviously has a real sort of beating heart to it.
And I'm glad you talk about that because there is that beating heart, and you fall in love with Dusty and these characters. And I wanted to ask you about Dusty. Do you think Dusty is a winner? And if so, what is it? When is the moment that he becomes one?
Oh, it's a great question. Um, I would say Dusty is certainly not a winner when we meet him. And I mean that mostly because obviously he's a character who's stuck in the past, and I think it's hard to win when you're only sort of looking backwards. And unfortunately for him, he's primarily looking backwards at his biggest failure, which I think many of us can get stuck in. When something doesn't go our way. In his case, it was the biggest match of his junior tennis career against Andy Roddick, and he thought he was on the path to greatness and becoming a pro, and he ran into the wall that was Andy Roddick. And this happens with certain athletes. I was a fan of the New York Knicks growing up, and it felt like every year we ran into Michael Jordan and we just lost and we lost. It was like, oh man, what a bad time to be, a fan of the Knicks when they keep losing to the same guy. But so I think he was a loser, certainly in the sense that he's stuck in the past. But I think he finally, when he learns to let go of this identity, right, which is like a guy who would never be caught dead on a pickleball court. He's a tennis player, he's a tennis pro. When he finally starts to let go, and as Candace, Mary Steenburgen's character, teaches him, you don't have to swing so hard in pickleball because he's the hammer. That was his character. He was known as the guy who hit the tennis ball so hard. They called him the hammer. She's telling me you don't have to swing so hard. And I think the metaphor there is like, you don't have to grip onto your past so much and try so hard to be this character who you aren't anymore. Let go of who you think you are and try something new. And I think as he starts to kind of dip his toe and then ultimately he jumps, feet first all the way into pickleball, you start to see him become a winner. And obviously at the end, without giving anything away, I think he absolutely is a winner, in his character. Whether or not he wins the big match, certainly won't give away. But I think in terms of his character, he absolutely goes from a loser to a winner.
I love that, honestly, Josh. And I love the DINK. It is so much fun. And I have to say, Andy Roddick, so funny in this.
Great,
Uh,
right? I know
So good.
he did a great job, and he had never acted before, and he did the thing that's very hard, which is even though you're in a comedy, you don't need to push and try to make the jokes. You sort of be present, be yourself, be in the moment, and he did a really phenomenal job. I'm glad to hear you say that.
Honestly, thank you so much for your time, Josh. I really appreciate it. Have a great day.
Thanks, Steve. You too.
Thanks. Bye bye.